My daughter tugged my sleeve as we turned the grocery aisle corner. Fixated on an elderly man staring at canned beans, she ran up and hugged him. He froze, then tears welled in his eyes. He whispered, "She used to hug me like that." I asked if he needed help. He just nodded. I wrote my number on a receipt. That hug, spontaneous and pure, cracked open something in him. I didn't know it yet, but grief had found its first breath of relief. He showed up 2 days later with a bruised smile and a pie he didn't bake. "She used to love apple," he said. We sat on my porch, Amelia bouncing beside him. She told him jokes, terrible ones, and he laughed anyway. I watched him watch her like she filled a space too big to name. He asked if he could come again. I said yes. A hug became a pie. A pie became a reason. And somewhere, grief blinked first. Our weekly porch talks became tradition. One day, I found him outside, staring at Amelia's chalk drawings on the sidewalk. He whispered, "She wanted kids. We never had any." He walked away before I could respond. Later, he called and canceled dinner. I felt the silence louder than before. His grief had shifted, and I wasn't sure if I was part of the healing or just a temporary echo of what he lost. Days passed. I brought Amelia by with muffins. He didn't answer. We left them at his doorstep. The next day, the plate was gone, but the door stayed shut. Amelia drew a heart in chalk. "He'll come out," she said. I doubted it. That night, he texted, "Sorry, I needed space." Grief had a rhythm I didn't understand, but Amelia seemed to move to its beat instinctively. I just hoped he'd return. He invited us over for lunch. Inside, dusty shelves now held Amelia's drawings. "She brightens the place," he said. We shared soup in silence until he asked, "Do you think she'd forget me?" My heart ached. Not a chance. Amelia gave him another hug. This time tighter. He didn't flinch. That moment felt like a hinge, something shifting between goodbye and beginning. But grief doesn't vanish. It just learns how to sit quieter. Then came the twist. He missed Amelia's birthday. No call, no card. She cried that night. I was angry. The next morning, he was at our door, trembling. "I visited her grave yesterday," he said. "It wrecked me." Amelia hugged him anyway. I watched as he broke down, kneeling on our porch. It wasn't abandonment. It was a storm he hadn't learned to predict. And we were his shelter, not his replacement. Spring brought flowers to his yard and smiles to his face. One morning, he handed Amelia a wooden birdhouse. "Built it just for you," she beamed. I watched their bond, silent, sturdy, real. Healing wasn't loud. It was this chipped paint. Shared stories, and sunlight catching the edges of memory. Grief didn't leave, but it made room for joy. On his birthday, Amelia made him a card, crayon hearts and stick figures. He cried, then laughed, and hugged her like she was family. "You brought me back," he whispered. That spontaneous hug months ago had become a bridge, one heart healing another. Watching them, I knew this wasn't about filling a void. It was about growing something new.